Freedom Council is nothing without all of you. How do we go about getting people held criminally responsible for their acts? The military is still at risk. Election interference, the medicalization of childhood. These drug dealers like Pfizer and Moderna, we can seize their property. We develop our litigation through conferences like this. It's going to come through communications. It's going to come through conversations. And Freedom Council is that conversation.
For information, visit freedomcouncil.org.
I knew as early as February 2020 that I needed to do something.
I recognized that there was a systematic problem and that this was not about hydroxychloroquine, it was something larger.
Fear shut the world down, and people made a lot of money at it as they were killing us.
I was asked to speak at a freedom rally that was set up to discredit my reputation.
Whoever orchestrated this must not have the safety of this nation in mind.
Medicine and politics should be separated. These doctors were handcuffed.
The American public has awakened. We have a new civil rights movement to restore our rights, and we're going to hold them accountable.
It is a natural progression of a man of God or woman of character to see injustice, to seek it out, and then to act upon it.
Do you hear me? We will never lock down again. This is the hill we die on.
Don't miss New American Heroes with attorney Warner Mendenhall and John Davidson, Mondays on BrokenTruth.tv.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage.
And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
With Broken Truth Tuesday, Freedom Council Tuesday. I'm John Davidson. With me is my lovely co-host and talented co-host, Jennifer Kennedy. And today we have John Sullivan, an attorney out of Texas, who has pretty impressive lawsuits going against it's United and Hawaiian Airlines, correct?
Those are two of the defendants, John. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome, John. So John, can you kind of give us the introduction into your cases, what they're about, and who you're representing?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess it's been about a little over 4 years ago now that we started. I started getting some calls from some friends who worked for United Airlines, and they were facing the vaccine mandate that had been handed down there. And they had, primarily it was sincerely held religious beliefs against taking the vaccine. And so kind of came to me and asked what we could do about that. And then shortly after filing that lawsuit, had some friends reach out from Hawaiian Airlines as well. And then their mandate was tracking about 5 months or so behind United's, and so we ended up filing suit there in January after we had filed initially in September of 2021.
And how many clients are you representing?
Oh, so we've got in the United case, we're representing around 2,000 employees. In the Hawaiian case, we're down to about 150 or so, I believe. And then, hundreds more across the country in some other cases. Case against United Airlines. We've got a case against City and County of San Francisco. Just settled another case against a major insurance company. So, yeah.
So when you settle these cases, you say another insurance company, but you don't name them. Is that part of the settlement? Is that you don't disclose who settles?
I mean, it's public record, but I just was not. Yeah, okay. We don't discuss the terms of the settlement. So,
that for me, that's a problem with a lot of the cases when they settle. Justice isn't disclosed, and that leads people to be frustrated. They don't hear about the victories, but in this case, doesn't apply. But yeah, So Jennifer, do you have any questions for him about this? I mean, you're the attorney.
What I think is really interesting actually to understand. So in United, you've got around 2,000 plaintiffs, and in Hawaiian, about 150. Number one, are your plaintiffs, obviously, they're not all flight attendants. Sounds like they run the gamut from every possible type of airline employee. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's right. It's everybody from the pilots and flight attendants to the mechanics, baggage handlers, gate agents, even
probably the plane cleaners, who come through.
Cleaners, some front office people. Yeah, it does run the gamut.
And so you have so many in United because that's where the class certification has been granted, but it was withheld in Hawaiian, correct?
That's right. Well, and also United's just a much larger company as well, right? So there were around, it's usually I found it was about 5%. It seems like of the workforce at each one of these companies that went ahead and went through and tried to coerce their employees into taking the vaccine. There were about 5% of the company that would kind of stand up to that for primarily religious, but also some for medical reasons. And so in United Airlines, that equaled about 2,000 people. The class that we got certified there is closer to 1,000 people because the district court certified a class of pilots and flight attendants who were placed on unpaid leave for refusing to get the vaccine. But everyone else was kind of left to bring their own lawsuit. They were not made part of the class. And so right now we actually have cross motions at the Fifth Circuit. We're seeking to expand the class, saying that you kind of force the same illegal choice on all these people at once. You gave them all the same illegal remedy of what was not a reasonable accommodation. And therefore, they could all be made part of the same class, seeking the same type of injunctive remedy, even that the court tells United, you're not allowed to do this in the future.
And that the illegal remedy was the unpaid suspension, wasn't it? That we saw out of the Sombrano case, wasn't it?
That's right. It's a Sombrano case. That's correct. Yeah, and we're seeking to expand the class, and United Airlines is seeking to get rid of the class altogether that was already certified. So that's what's at the Fifth Circuit right now.
Which court was it, and on what grounds was the Hawaiian case not allowed to go to class?
So that was the District Court of Hawaii. So these are in federal court, and the court there kind of just said basically that there's too many individual questions about their beliefs or about their potential remedies, even though the company had decided long before it addressed anyone's request for an exemption, it had already decided that it was not going to allow these people to continue working. So that was already kind of baked in. And, we believe that that's already an existing violation of Title VII. When you act with the motive of not providing an accommodation, you've already violated the law, according to the Supreme Court. So, but the court said you have these individual questions. You've got individual questions about, what potential accommodations you could use. Even though, what we posed all along was that, everyone here could have and would have been willing to provide negative COVID tests, right? And the one thing I've said all along is that who you can't catch COVID from, right? It's someone who doesn't have COVID, right? And a negative test is a far more superior indicator of not having COVID than having gotten an ineffective vaccine, months or even years prior to when people were still being held out of work.
What benefit does your case get from being a class versus non-class?
It's primarily it's just efficiency, right? It's more efficient for the courts to do because you're dealing with the same questions, right? Did the company act with this motive or did they not? Could they have provided this reasonable accommodation or could they not have? And so it's more efficient for the judicial system to handle it like that. It's more efficient for attorneys on our side to handle it like that, so that we're not doing the same paperwork thousands of times.
And are you able to appeal that ruling on class status?
Yeah, so we did. So we appealed. Oh, you're talking about in the Hawaiian case,
right?
Yeah. So we did not appeal there, and instead we just turned around and filed what's called a mass action, where it's like all these individual plaintiffs who had gone through the EEOC process and obtained right to sue letters had the ability to bring their own lawsuit, and so we just filed a large case, just naming all of them at once, hopefully to kind of get some of the economies of scale that you would get from a class action. But even the potential class there was a lot smaller than it was in the United case, so it's not quite as onerous to bring this type of action versus the class action with the Hawaiian group.
And John, you mentioned that you filed back in September of 2021. That was the first one, was it? And then
That's
again,
correct.
Have you been surprised about the time? I mean, here we are in 2025, rolling into 2026. Are you surprised, or did you expect this kind of lengthy delay?
I mean, I grew up in big law, right? Like and representing the same types of companies. I've represented airlines before, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know how long a case can take, how long it can get drawn out. But the one thing that I told our clients from the beginning was, not to be discouraged by that, because I said, look, the longer this drags out, the more people are going to become aware of actually the facts that were actually known at the time, but being either hidden or at least suppressed. Things that we knew about the vaccine and its effectiveness, things that we knew about natural immunity and its effectiveness, just these different facts that and public perception is going to not look kindly, I don't think, on kind of the tyranny of the mandates, whether they came from the government or from private corporations.
That does seem to be a big shift, certainly from the whole vibe in 2021 to now has changed.
No, definitely right. But what we are of course seeing is that certain courts are very quick to defend these decisions that were made, right? And they'll say, well, yes, look, the company had to make the best decision that it could based on the evidence that it had at the time, based on what it was being told at the time. And they're trying to cut those off from getting to juries because they know that juries are going to not look favorably on what these companies did.
And in the end, though, when you think about it, what the decisions they had to make at the time in terms of accommodating, though, not too much different from any other situation because they just didn't accommodate, right? They just didn't even attempt to accommodate.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they never actually did any sort of real analysis on the question, right? Because of course they, as I noted earlier, they planned in advance not to accommodate. Because this wasn't really about the safety of the workforce or anything like that, because you had hundreds and hundreds of times as many people flying on airplanes as you did working on airplanes, right?
Right.
And they weren't forcing those people to get vaccinated. So, look, a large percentage of people were, okay, and so you were going to get whatever safety you were going to get was just going to naturally come about through that. This wasn't about safety; it was about marketing, right? And so as soon as United they were able to tell everybody, hey, we have the first 100% vaxxed workforce, right? And it's plastered across, billboards or sky bridges or whatever, right? In Chicago, and Hawaiian Airlines said, hey, look, United's doing this. We have emails, right? We have to follow them, right? Because we don't want to be known as the anti-vax airline, right? Like, so it was about perception and marketing and those types of issues rather than safety, which is why, again, they could say, just make the predetermine that they were going to not accommodate anyone. That and so if you're not going to do it, you don't really have to look for an accommodation if you're not going to provide one already. But that's why you get Hawaiian is putting people out of work in January and February of 2022. You know, long after the latest COVID variant has come out and rendering vaccines totally pointless. And when other companies were taking their mandates down, even Starbucks or whoever, big companies were withdrawing mandates, we found there were oil companies, like major oil companies, that were just then starting to enforce vaccine mandates through the spring and even late summer of 2022. Even United Airlines had, after a bad ruling from the Fifth Circuit, pulled down their mandate and let people come back to work in March. Hawaiian pulled down its mandate in September of 2022, but you still had other companies that were late to the party, still trying to think that they should enforce mandates at that point. And it was really rather ridiculous.
Yeah, and
So you said it was.
Oh, go ahead, John.
No, you go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, when you look at the different states across the country, and then within those states, the timing of the mandates is really ridiculous. If you looked at all of it, you can see in every instance, it isn't about health and safety. It's about whatever little agenda that particular defendant had, or whatever control drama they were,
just virtue signaling, right? Whether it lets the CEO of the company, get an extra night in the Lincoln bedroom, or whether they think it's going to pay off for advertising purposes, right? Or maybe it gets you a promotion, right? You get to a cabinet position.
And meanwhile, you look at the lives of your plaintiffs and the damage. I mean, okay, yeah, they want the bonus or the feel good pat on the back or whatever, the promotion, and yet what they did to our plaintiffs was horrific. The pensions stolen, the lives changed. I mean, the damage has been catastrophic.
It's destroyed people's lives. I've actually sadly had multiple plaintiffs that ended up taking their own lives. Right. I feel like as part of this mandate process, right? Because maybe they took the shot, right, and then they felt so bad, they had violated their religious convictions and felt so bad, right? They couldn't live with themselves any longer, right? And just the stress of COVID, right, was hard on everyone, as it was. When you layered on top of this, the fact that you were strong arming people, right, and coercing them. The CEO of United, just kept trumpeting time after time again that mandates work, right? See, well, yeah. No, duh. Right? I mean, if you put someone to this decision, whether they're going to provide for their family or not, you're going to be able to coerce them into violating their beliefs. They work. That doesn't mean that you didn't break the law, right?
Right.
It's ruined people's lives. We've got plaintiffs who's maybe they've had to move across the country to try to find work. Or they're having to live apart from their spouse because their spouse is living out of their car trying to generate.
This is your CEO of United.
Oh, and he's the one who was just on the interview.
CEO of United Airlines.
What the? That's him.
That's him.
Yes.
Oh my!
I can't imagine that they would have gone for a woke policy.
And he just sat for that interview, did he not, recently, where he was really trying. I mean, he actually said, didn't he say something like, "Oh, we didn't make anyone take it. They had a choice to make, and that they were keeping people safe." It was.
I mean, that has been the line since he got sued, especially. But it was obvious coercion, right? Like, I mean, he did, and he was proud of that 4 years ago. That how well the mandate works, right? Because if you put people to that choice, then they're gonna give in to your agenda. Just because most people can't afford not to, right? And
Yeah, for locals in Hawaii, to get a job at Hawaiian is almost a dream come true.
Yeah, no,
for many of them.
Oh, of course. I mean, the employees we have. I mean, a lot of them, kept working, or they went on the leave for a while and then came back, and they have loved working there. It pays really well. It allows them, the flexibility to travel. When you're in Hawaii, right? I mean, if you're going to go anywhere, it's got to be by plane. Well,
Right. Got to get off that rock somehow.
Yeah. So it's great to have flight benefits, right? And to be able to go see family and things like that. And the bind that they put people in, right? Not allowing this accommodation when even the city and county of Honolulu itself was providing accommodations for people with religious or medical reasons not to get the vaccine. Even and the city and county of Honolulu was among the most strict, right, in the entire country, because they were trying to really isolate Hawaii, and try to prevent COVID from coming there altogether if they could. But even the city and county was allowing accommodations during this time, and Hawaiian Airlines wouldn't.
That's just what makes no sense when you look at all the defendants. Again, when you look at the timeline, pre-mandate and post-mandate. Pre-mandate, of course, everyone's doing what they can. Everyone's doing their best. Everyone's masking, testing, doing is whatever required. And then suddenly at 11:59:59 on somebody's arbitrary, pen to paper deadline, suddenly all the unvaccinated in the workplace become the disease vectors, which to me, it's never made sense as a logical argument, has it? That they were fine before. And then why suddenly now is it that critical that they have to leave? When, of course, the entire island or everyone else, like you said, city, county,
and they'd been working for, for a year and a half on those planes. And of course, the airlines had been advertising how safe it was. It's safer. Scott Kirby told Congress it's safer than basically being in a hospital room or an emergency room, something along those lines, right? That it's totally safe to fly, but then all of a sudden it's not. And to me, that's where it was tied to the messaging that you're really starting to get from the White House at that time, right? That, it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Right. The winter of death and illness that is approaching.
Yeah. Right.
How many winters are we on now? We're all we just got through our latest winter of death and illness.
So how do you, considering this has gone on for years, how do you keep your clients informed? I mean, do you have any idea of when they can reasonably expect a jury trial?
We don't. So we had one scheduled in Hawaii for the beginning of June, and we were actually out there ready to go. It was going to be the first one of these trials, which would have been great because it would have helped get this issue resolved. Both sides would be able to see what it looks like when this actually goes to a jury. It would have allowed probably all or most of the cases to reach a settlement, some sort of agreement. But the judge, the week before the trial, postponed the trial to the fall. And in the meantime, Hawaiian started filing some additional motions, and we were supposed to have a trial basically during November and over and around Thanksgiving. And that has now gotten pushed back as well. So we're hopeful for a trial this coming year. At least,
who was the judge?
That is Judge Gilmore
in Hawaii.
And when you say trial, were you going to have a bellwether trial or?
No, this was going to be, so the initial group that was denied the class certification. We have 9 plaintiffs in that group. And so the judge is splitting them apart based on kind of the types of claims that they have and the position that they were in. And so it was going to be 2 pilots who only had religious claims. That was going to be the first trial.
Is Helen Gilmore?
That's correct.
I just like to, I like to know the players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people should know. Okay, this judge is going to pull your case right before. Now, here's what's interesting about that too. As frustrating as this is, every single day, these defendants and judges delay the case or these cases. The population is more and more aware. Just this past weekend, we had Vinay Prasad send the letter out. Essentially, was the first acknowledgement by the FDA that just at least, out of 100 cases, they've confirmed 10 were caused by the COVID vaccine. This
You mean
information
the 10 children's deaths, right?
10 children, 10 of the 96 were confirmed. And that's just 10 that they looked at. So inevitably, the jury pool gets more and more hostile to the defendants in these cases. So great, delay, please.
Well, and also, you know, you get compound interest on your damages. But
so the math
but that
doesn't pay the rent today.
That's right. And so people have had to give up. I mean, a lot of plaintiffs have taken, you know, settlements for pennies on the dollar, or they've taken some deal where they just try to go back to get their job back, try to start making money for their families again, because they and companies know this, right? Like that they can outlast most plaintiffs, and they can outlast a lot of smaller plaintiffs firms. You know, we've been fortunate I knew early on when I was going to take on United, I was still at my old firm. So I was going to open my own firm, but I knew I couldn't take them on by myself. And so just kind of developed a model where I started partnering up with some other firms who have helped me on these cases. And so we have the resources to actually keep fighting for years when other people don't. So
you're part of Freedom Council, right?
I'm not.
Remember?
I'm not.
You're not. Well,
let me just get you that application. No, you're in, John. Obviously, you're in.
I never got invited to the party.
Oh, you're so invited. In fact, here's a question, because you mentioned that your big defense expert, or I mean experience in the past. You know how in the Sombrano case they talk about how the plaintiffs were put into that crisis of conscience about choosing faith or job, and I'm wondering, if you had kind of a big corporate background, how did you shift to where you are? Did you have a crisis of conscience that changed your practice?
That's a good question. So I would say yes and no, right? Like, so at my firm, we were actually, we were starting to roll out a mandate of sorts. I probably could have, I think, avoided that mandate anyway. But I was already kind of looking for something else to do. You know, I told my wife at one point, maybe 6 months to a year, kind of prior to all this, that I was either going to start using my law degree for something that I enjoyed and believed in, or I was going to go to medical school. So just through kind of a series of fortuitous, you know, coincidences and events, the executive pastor at the church where we went to church while I was clerking, almost a decade earlier, was a part-time, like 1 weekend a month, baggage handler for United Airlines. And so that was what really got me tied into this. And because I've always been, you know, very pro-religious liberty. That's always been just a real, you know, passion of mine, something that I wanted to do with the law. And I've tried to do, you know, kind of pro bono cases in favor of religious liberty when I could. And so in that aspect, right, like it was easy for me. There wasn't a big shift there for you know, going after fighting for people's religious rights on this topic. And and once the mandates started coming out, I was kind of looking for an excuse to get involved anyway, just because I'm from Texas, so I'm pretty libertarian, and I, when the vaccines first came out, like I didn't have much thought about them, to be honest. I'd had COVID, so I was like, I'm not going to get a vaccine, right? Like I've taken lots of science classes. I'm not going to get a vaccine, right? I tested my antibodies. I have antibodies. Why would I get a vaccine? But I didn't care if, other people did. Again, hadn't really looked into them too much. Didn't have much thought about them. But then when they started mandating them on people, that got my attention. I was like, oh, wait, that sent up red flags for me. Just, just kind of when the government's going to make me do something that I got, or any company, right, that just kind of bristle at that. And so I was looking for kind of an avenue to get involved in this anyway. And so then when it came to religious people coming to me that had these sincerely held religious beliefs against taking the vaccine, then that was an easy switch for me to flip. The hardest thing, the weirdest thing was moving from defense side to more plaintiff side. I still do defense work, and outside general counsel for different companies and groups, stuff like that. But actually filing lawsuits, I had never done that, and so that's a new thing for me. But it's been fun.
I think that's true of a lot of us in Freedom Council, where our practices changed, or we went from defense to plaintiffs all of a sudden. I know that's true for me.
Yeah. So,
as a layman watching from the side, I assume that I took road trips across the country in 2021. Every billboard was either porn or an accident attorney. And I thought for sure, I was like, oh my gosh, with all these attorneys, we got so many attorneys. You can't step 2 feet without squishing one. There have to be a tremendous number of lawsuits against these mandates, against injuries, against hospital protocols. And there weren't.
And yet?
Well, it's you kind of had misaligned priors, right, with all this, right? Because the plaintiff's bar tends by and large to be more liberal than the defense bar, which is really saying something considering how liberal attorneys are in general. And so like you just pro plaintiff, right? Like that usually tends to be more Democrat judges than Republican judges, right? You just because the pro business people, right, tend to be more Republican, tend to have that aspect, right? And so everything was kind of turned on its head. Yeah, and you've got all these billboards, right? And that was our joke during law school, was that the running gag was we had to go study for our exams so we could make good grades, because you have to stay off the billboard, right? Like that was the goal. If you didn't do well in law school, you wouldn't get a job at a big law defense firm, and you would end up representing motorcycle victims or whatever, right? Like which I have sympathy for them, but didn't want to be one of them. And so, so you're right. You have all these plaintiff side attorneys, but they all were Democrats who were buying into the narrative. And by the time that these mandates came around, we're already, driving 5 hours in search of their third booster or whatever, right? So they weren't going to be the kind of people that were willing to go after these, because they thought everybody should take the vaccine.
That's what we've seen. That's what was surprising to me. In fact, in your area in Texas, would you say you are in a very small minority of attorneys willing to take these cases, willing to take any kind of COVID mandate case?
Yeah, it took me a while. Like I knew starting out here, right, that there were only certain attorneys with certain firms that would even be willing to take this sort of thing on. It was going to be a very small pool of people to draw from, and I knew most of them, right? So I just kind of started making some calls and seeing who was willing to partner with me on these cases. And it took me 2 or 3 weeks at least to find somebody that could help me. And again, I was reaching out to the conservative lawyers, right? That I knew would be willing to stand up for religious freedom.
Right.
But the problem is they also have to be willing to stand up to a large corporation like United Airlines or Hawaiian Airlines, because once you cross the Rubicon here, right? Like United Airlines is never going to hire me again, right? Like, so which why I had to leave my firm, right, to even bring this case. So even paid work, right? I mean, you just you're not allowed to sue corporations when you're a big law firm that represents corporations. So.
Right. So even you had to take a hit, as it were, to be able to prosecute these and support religious liberty. And for that, we're grateful. That's what Freedom Council is all about. And once again, you're invited to the club. We invite all such attorneys to our club.
Thank you.
Join them.
Yes.
One of us.
Exactly.
And I'm not even an attorney, but they let me play around in there.
Yeah.
It's I guess that is part of it too. And if you're an independent attorney or in a small firm, you get a case like this, it's a loser. And on the face of it, not always, but initially.
No, a lot of my clients are telling me kind of ones that we've either gotten through a class mechanism or a class settlement type of thing. They're like they couldn't find an attorney that would bring this case for them, especially if they were maybe in the Northeast or they were, in less favorable jurisdictions. So
Hawaii,
California, Ninth Circuit.
They could not find an attorney that would bring this case. And so like some of them wouldn't even bother hardly like going through the EEOC process, for instance, right? So
which is difficult.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of red tape there. It is a giant hassle to exhaust your administrative remedies, right? Is the legal phrase. So like going through the EEOC process, they want you to interview with them. Only they were backed up on their interviews for at least 6 to 9 months. It was hard to even get in with them. And then you got to do the paperwork with them and sign your charge. Yeah, it's cumbersome. And
even to understand.
Companies count on that, right? To even understand that you have to do that.
Or what to do, right? Or what to do or say, or what's your next move? Or honestly, these poor plaintiffs, we hear the same thing out here.
Yeah, and corporations, I think, I was never at that high of a level of on the inside, right? But I assume they run actuarial numbers, right? Like on how many people, if for every 10 people we fire, right? How many are going to bother going through the EOC process? I'm sure there's
right. It's the
right? And they count on attrition there, that people not exhausting their remedies, and it's probably half, I would guess, at least. Maybe more.
Right. It's the Ford Pinto argument. How many bad accidents or explosions of the vehicle can we
Are you going to have to before
we fix it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, advertising rules limit what you can do, right? In terms of adding more members to class. Like you can't just go like Better Call Saul and which, by the way, come on, that almost made me want to be a lawyer from University of Samoa. But what kind of limitations?
I can't remember the mascot there.
I forget. I know now I've got to look it up. But how do you get more people? Is it all word of mouth for these things?
Largely, I mean, that's what it's been for us, right? Like, so I've still never advertised, right? I have still stayed off the billboard, and just, people reach out to me all the time. And that's, I had this initial group with United Airlines that came together. They formed they were all talking together, trying to they had been looking for an attorney to help them. They had been trying and actually pay for it, right? Like pay big law rates. They had been looking for someone for at least 2 months before they talked to me, because they knew that a mandate was coming, right? Like the company had said, no, we won't do a mandate, but they knew it was coming. So they had already kind of banded together. We're looking for representation. Couldn't find it from any big law firm, of course. as we've discussed before. And so when I got connected with them, they were able to, we put together a 501c4 that helps advertise for their group and kind of bring people in and coordinate, hey, this is who you should talk to, that kind of deal. So other than that, yeah, it's primarily been word of mouth. People just reaching out, and people had kind of banded together somewhat when either right before or right after mandates issued at these companies. So they started talking to each other, but a lot of people, just never even knew about it. They kind of were out there on an island. And so we were kind of finding them later, maybe through the class process.
And yet, wouldn't you say that the people you find later, people they're really starting to hit those statutes limitation. That's starting to be a problem for almost everybody. It feels like, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, because most of them have already passed, right? Because you have virtually in every state, you only have 300 days from the time that the company takes it. It should be its last action. The courts have been fighting us on this too, but it should be from the time that the company takes its last adverse
act of harm, right,
against you. You should have 300 days to file your charge with the EOC. But that doesn't mean contact the EOC. That doesn't mean like try to schedule an interview and set for a phone interview and go through that process. That means until you actually sign your charge of discrimination and it's filed with the EOC. You only have 300 days. If you don't do it within 300 days, then you've lost the claim, at least your federal claim. Now, you do have some states, such as California, I think you've got up to 3 years.
We have 3 years for that. The FEHA claim.
For your FEHA, yeah. So you can kind of get to the same place, right, through a state law remedy there. But then once you get that, once you get your letter, your right to sue letter, if it's federal, right, if it's coming through the EOC, you only have 90 days to file your lawsuit, or else you lose the right again. California, you've got a year, right? Once the state agency issues its letter. So a little bit more lax in California, but only for state law claims. If you're trying to bring these federal law claims, which are largely duplicative, you're going to have a very short window, especially because you had 300 days to file with the EOC, and the EOC has been investigating those claims and thinking about what they were going to do. And in very rare instances have tried to bring charges. For the most part, have tried to reconcile the case or just issue the right to sue. And the last of those are really rolling out now. They're just trying to clear the decks of all those. Because they're almost 3 to 4 years old now, right, on all those charges.
Right. What I hear a lot from people is, in fact, I wanted to ask you if you had any advice for the public, because my main advice these days is don't sit on your rights. Don't be thinking about whether should I sue my employer? Should I? I have too many people who call me and they say, I finally decided I'm gonna do something about it. And I'm like, and I'm so sorry, but it's too late.
It's too late. Yeah.
Now, there is one interesting aspect. If you are dealing with vaccine injured children, the statute of limitations right doesn't begin in most states for them until they turn 18.
Yeah, so that's Jennifer probably knows way more about this than I do. I know just a little bit about the vaccine injury program. Was it VSIP? And yeah, you can get compensation. It's a different kind of claim than the employment claims that we're talking about.
Right. Although, John, you might have been thinking about the whole, number one, tolling of the statute of limitations for minors. Minors possess that right of action, but then it depends on if they turn 18, then does their cause begin? That's a whole nother question. And yeah, that's typically true when the child has a cause of action. But in terms of vax injury, that's a whole other animal, though, being forced into the vaccine court, which is just not it's separate but unequal.
It's a black box. Yeah, we actually have we're working on some litigation there as well.
I want to show you guys something in terms of what you're going to be dealing with juries. There was a great clip that I found this morning of Piers Morgan having one of those prove me wrong kind of debates. And this is, I just want to see if your head explodes like mine did when I saw this, because it's just absolutely maddening.
Guilty of this myself. I'm not saying I'm whiter than white about
so
this.
So masks are woke.
No, they can be. The woke mentality, I'll explain why. When a government says that if you're seen without a mask during a pandemic, you can be fined or punished.
Pierce, you're way too smart to believe this.
Wait a minute. I'm giving you the argument which I ended up accepting, right? Which is in a fast-moving pandemic, when the scientific advice changes so rapidly, I fell victim to this myself. I was very censorious of people. But you can't deny that the state had a mindset of you will conform or we will punish you. And it turned out they were making people...
That's simply not true.
It is true.
You may have felt uncomfortable being unmasked in public because people would say, hey, be courteous of other people.
I didn't.
Nobody got fired.
I didn't.
Nobody lost their job. Nobody got
people did get fired and did lose their job.
All that stuff got overturned.
No,
because we are a nation of laws.
People did get fired. They all lost their jobs for not wearing a mask. They were told they couldn't come to work.
Who?
Lost thousands of people.
Okay, so these nebulous people lost their job.
Nick, to be clear, you don't think anybody lost their job in the pandemic for refusing to wear a mask or refusing to be vaccinated?
I think that people who were in public-facing situations where they could have easily taken a scientifically proven preemptive measure.
It wasn't proven.
Yes, it was.
No, it turned out not to be proven. That's my point. And yet the state, driven by a left-wing Democrat president,
so me telling you that you are spreading misinformation, that is not fascism. That is just me telling you you're wrong.
No, you're not telling me I'm wrong because I'm right.
Okay, no, you're just...
John Davidson, who is this individual?
So I asked Grok. I was like, Grok, please, who is this moron? Yeah. Grok would not tell me.
I am stunned.
That guy and the people laughing in the background, this is the byproduct of the censorship and misinformation warfare that we were dealing with so that we couldn't get good messages out. And now these idiots walk around. It's amazing he could even put on his tie. It must be a clip-on. But these idiots are walking around with this completely false vision of the world. And they're juries.
Yes. Very similar. I've had the same kind of astonishing feeling where I was speaking to an extremely intelligent friend of mine who unfortunately bought in to all of the hype and all the propaganda. Yeah. And I said the word ivermectin. And my friend said, "What's that?"
Yeah.
Astonishing. What's that, you say?
And another thing I found this morning was that Twitter likes to put people into silos based on their advertiser friendliness. If the advertisers don't like you, you get put down to tier 1 and you're invisible. You make a post, and this is where I live. Because if you talk about uncomfortable things that might upset advertisers, well, we can't have that. So you think that you're safe or you have a venue in Twitter, but you actually don't. And a lot of this guy right here, I'm sure he's on Threads or Blue Cry or wherever they go to regurgitate this bad information.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, what a great thing to have right before this show.
Oh my word. That Piers Morgan, what a gaslighter. What a gaslighter he
and
is.
Now
now he wants to talk about the state and the state censoring people and the state. He was the worst. He was, we have
at least he's admitting it.
His Twitter feeds. What's that, John?
At least he's admitting it there, though.
Right.
He halfway admits it. He wants to absolve himself, but he was really awful. Again, he was one of the people saying the unvaccinated should be excluded. We should rightfully lose our jobs, etc. And so I don't think he can't really walk that back.
It's like John, though, that's a great word there for it, was just regurgitated, right? Like it's the same feedback loop, right, that they get stuck in, and they don't know what ivermectin is. They don't know. They've been shielded from the facts that were harmful to a certain narrative.
Yeah.
So
Do you all remember, speaking of the vax, how early on, I remember this very clearly when the vax was being rolled out. So this is pre-December. This is really late fall 2020, where everything I read, this was a red flag for me, was they kept using the word harmless spike protein. It's just, it codes for a harmless spike protein. And I thought, really? Is it really harmless? But they started so early with the messaging that people did, I think, just by osmosis. A lot of people just took it in and then never, ever had any ability to question it after that.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I mean, safe and effective. If you repeat that enough times, then yeah, people.
The lie becomes truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Truth.
Something, John Sullivan, you mentioned earlier about the really smart group of plaintiffs that got together early, pre-mandate, and the notion that you put together this 501c4, et cetera. So many plaintiffs I find, of course, they've lost their jobs. They lost income, livelihoods, career, pension, et cetera. People haven't had the money to sue. So it's great to hear that you're in a position where your firm or the way you associate, you have resources that can help people. I just feel so badly for so many of the people what a bind to be in. You lose your job, you need to sue, you don't want to sit on your rights, and you can't. That's been one of the biggest, I think, insults to injury to the injured people, that they literally can't afford to sue, or they can't find anyone to take their case because of the money aspect.
Right.
Especially in Hawaii, right? So you're in Hawaii. Okay, you lose your job to Hawaiian Airlines. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
It's a hospitality industry there. It's tourism. Every single one of those hotels probably all had similar mandates. It's at least anyone that had good benefits for you to take care of your family and your kids. What a nightmare to be in.
Yeah, you couldn't get hired, right? Like, so, as I mentioned earlier, say the city and county were actually providing reasonable accommodations for people who couldn't get vaccinated, but they weren't hiring anybody who wasn't vaccinated. So when you lost your job at Hawaiian Airlines, you couldn't go over to the city and county, right? Unless you already had a job there. And you can't find an attorney to represent you. It's a very small place. Like I love Hawaii. I've always loved going there since I was a kid. Been there dozens of times, and but it's a very small place, right? It's like a big small town, and they have what they call it the coconut wireless, right? Like, so it's the gossip chain, like, so everybody on the island knows everybody else's business, right?
Business,
yeah. And so, see who you're going to find that's going to go up against the leading employer in the state. It's hard, but then
I mean, they're proud of Hawaiian Airlines.
The
locals,
right. Well, and I mean, until it was until it was taken over by a Canadian CEO. I mean, it was
there's that.
It was a great airline. I mean, I flew Hawaiian back in the 80s. I remember when they used to give you a lei when you got off the plane. Like you walk down the steps there, and Then the next time I went back, then I think they were charging for the leis, and then the next time I went back, then it was
no more leis.
No more leis. Just buy it at the vendor at the kiosk.
And by the way, where did the ladies go in the grass skirts and the coconut bras? That was like the whole thing when my wife first brought me there. I was like, let's go. And I get there and there's none of it. There's just a sign that says toilets.
Yeah.
Which they finally changed to restroom. But yeah, that's we should be winding up. But John, is there any way people can support you? You mentioned a 504 or 501(c)(4).
Oh, 501c4.
501c4.
Yeah, that's the Airline Employees for Health Freedom group. And so you can check out their website, and I think they have a link to donate, there if you'd like to.
How can people keep up with your cases?
Wow. Well, it's
Are you on Instagram, John? Can we follow you on Instagram?
I don't do social media. That's why I don't advertise. I don't. That's probably why I didn't know about the Freedom Coalition. I was like, I'm not.
Oh, you're in. We're gonna keep you.
Yeah.
Tell us again that website. It's Airline Employees for Health Freedom.
Yeah, AE and then the number 4 HF.
.org.
Yeah, I believe so. And then my cases are Sembrano versus United Airlines, O'Halpin versus Hawaiian Airlines.
What's the status of O'Halpin, actually?
That's the one we're waiting to have a trial now. Hawaiian has filed some motions, and they've now tried a new argument that basically they had to enforce these vaccines. They couldn't accommodate people because of certain international destinations that they had, right?
Oh, wait, is that the argument that like the nurses and doctors, we can't let you in our nursing program. We don't have a mandate, but that clinical place does?
It's similar to that, right? And so then they're trying to hide behind the Railway Labor Act, right, is what it's called, and say that this will cause a problem with the airline collective bargaining, seniority, the whole system, because we can't send you to certain locations. Okay. Only then we later found out and have now informed the court that Hawaiian was misleading the court, that in fact they could send people to those destinations because maybe if it was Samoa or Tahiti, people weren't actually entering the country. They were just landing, offloading passengers, loading new passengers on, and flying back to Hawaii. So they weren't actually even entering the country. Or we found out with Japan that they were treating vaccinated and unvaccinated the same at that point, and they were treating them differently than crew members anyway. So crew members had their own things. The same was virtually true for Australia. Australia, interestingly, would also treat you as vaccinated if you had a medical reason not to take the vaccine. They would actually consider you fully vaccinated. But of course, Hawaiian hid all these facts from the court in making its motions to try to get cases dismissed. And so we've now alerted the court to that, and we're waiting to see what the court says.
Wow, great. Good luck on that.
Well, excellent. Mr. John Sullivan, thank you so much for all of the work that you do in representing your clients. I wish you the best, and please come back and let us know when you have big updates, and we will make sure to toot the horn for you.
Great.
Since you're not online.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is the smartest thing you could probably do.
Yeah. I have a firm website that just so that I seem, I have to have some veneer of legitimacy here. Thanks for having me, John. This was fun, and thanks to you too, Jennifer.
Of course,
our conversation.
Glad to have you.
And that wraps us up. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you again soon enough.
I believe in the Constitution. I believe that one case, the right case, can change the world. If you believe this too, Freedom Council is for you. Pursuing a major case can be overwhelming, but we provide a community of practice so that you have the resources available to support your case. My name is Warner Mendenhall, and we are Freedom Council. Join Freedom Council today. freedomcouncil.org.